Hi, and welcome to this video in which I want to show you how to install the latest version of SonicPi 4.5 onto a Raspberry Pi running the new Raspberry Pi OS based on Debian Bookworm, the 64-bit edition of that, which has been brought out in conjunction with the release of the Pi5. I haven't got one of those yet, but I'm looking forward to trying to run this on that when it does arrive. At the moment I'm running on a Pi4100 and I've got the deb file that I've produced downloaded into the downloads folder here. I'm doing this video just before this is released on the sonicpi.net site as a download, and I hope that it will be able to include this please read me text file as well, because there are one or two differences in both the method of installation and some different features in how to use SonicPi once it's installed. But let's just open up this readme text file and have a brief look at what's in it. I'm going to increase the size of the text so that you can read it, hopefully. And as you can see, it says it's the readme file for SonicPi 4.5.0, and this is the first version of deb file that I produced for the Bookworm-based ARM64 OS. And it only works, therefore, with the latest Raspberry Pi Bookworm 64-bit OS. There is a 32-bit simulation on 64-bit, but you need the full 64-bit version for it to work. There is actually a slight difference in the way that you install the file. Previously, if you've done this with one of my earlier versions, you have probably double-clicked on the deb file in order to install it. But in fact, in this case, if you do that, it just takes you into an archive program so that you can extract bits from the deb file, which you don't really want to do. And you need to right-click the icon in order to get a menu from which you can choose install the package from the options. So let's just leave that there for the moment, but well, in fact, no, we'll close that down for the moment. We might come back to it a little later on, and we'll try and do that. So I'm going to right click on the file, and it produces a drop down message from which we can choose package install. If I were to double click on it, you'll see that it opens up this archive folder instead, and so we don't want to do that. So we right click on it and we choose package install. It comes up with a little window saying, do you want to install it? Tells you what the package is. You click on install, and then because it's not part of the standard distribution, you have to authenticate that you really want to install this package, and to do that you need to put in the administrative password for your Pi, which will usually be the password of the first main installer and when you set up the system. So I'll put in mine here. There we are, hopefully got it right. Yes. It then downloads the packages, the extra ones you need. So you do need to be connected to the internet while you're doing the installation for this to work. And it's downloading and installing the extra packages. It's probably downloading them at the moment. And then it's starting the installation process, and the cursor, the progress just stops there while it gets on with it. It takes a bit of time because there's quite a bit to install. The whole of the Ruby language, for example. It's got to install Super Collider, which is the synthesizer that SonicPi uses. It's got to install quite a lot of Qt6 packages, which allow the graphics to work, the GUI screen, and then it does a bit of tidy up at the end, and shortly that will disappear, that package, and then it is fully installed. There we go. And we will now find, as this says, that there is a, oops, not that one I want. We can now find, as this said, sorry, I should have left it open, is that there is now an icon which appears in the programming section, SonicPi, there it is. And if we were to click on that, then it would start up. So let's try that. And hopefully, just get rid of that. Did I get it or not? Yes, there we go. We get SonicPi starting up there. And that is the initial screen, which you actually only see once because it has this little extra welcome bit. That only applies on a brand new install. So we'll say close that down. I don't like working with the white screen there, so the first thing I usually do when I install is to go to the Preferences screen, select the Editor tab here and change it to a dark installation like that. I'll choose that one because it actually lets you see the icons if you're not used to using SonicPi, what they're named. There is another one which you can use, which is Pro Dark, and that would just gives you icons. Once you know what they are, you don't really need the words, but we'll leave it on this one to start with. Now, if we go to the, if we turn that off, we can just try it out and see whether it actually works. So to do that, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to type load, and I can spell it right, load, and I want the second option for completion, which is load example, and I'm going to choose one which is called block game, and press the tab key there, and that puts that in. If we run that by clicking on here, the first time we do that, it will actually load the program in. There it is. There's the program, and now if we click on run, we can hear SonicPi working. What you're actually listening to are the speakers in the monitor, which is connected to my Pi4100. You're picking it up on the microphone of my MacBook, which is actually recording this video, and we can see that that's therefore working. So very simple to get SonicPi on, and if that's all you're going to use for the your audio output, that's all you need to do. You're up and running. But there are maybe some of you who maybe don't have speakers in your monitor, or you want to use a USB adapter, or even, and it works quite well on the latest OS, a Bluetooth speaker. Let me just stop SonicPi from playing at the moment so that you can hear what I'm saying. And in order to do that, things work slightly differently to other programs on the operating system. If you come up to the volume control here and you right click on it, you can see that at the moment there are two possibilities here. One is actually it says S800. That's actually a Bluetooth connection which I've already made on my operating system here. If I go down here, you can see that it's found this device, S800, and if we come up here and click on the speaker icon on the right again, you can see that it's actually the default output. But you can say, well, you're getting your SonicPi coming up through HDMI. Why is that? Well, the answer is that when you first download it, I don't know whether you've got any other possibilities. And so by default, it will accept the option that every Pi will have, which is HDMI. It doesn't select the audio jack because there isn't one on Pi400. There isn't a Pi4 or a Pi3, and there won't be on a Pi5 either. So that's why by default, it connects to HDMI. Well, why doesn't the speaker bring it up here? Well, the answer is that SonicPi works in a slightly different way, and you have to use a different mechanism to change the audio output. So let's see how to do that. With SonicPi, the Debian file asks for a different program, which is completely separate from SonicPi, to be loaded. And here it is. It's called QPW Graph. The WP bit in the QPW, the PW bit in there stands for PipeWire, which is the basis for the connection system that this new OS uses. And what this does is to give you a graphical display of all of the various devices which are involved with the PipeWire system. Now, it's not only audio, but audio connections are in each device has a grey rectangle, and if it has green subsections on it, then it is an audio device. And if those green subsections are on the left, then it is a device to which you can feed audio for it to be output. If they're on the right, as they are with Super Collider, it's a device which is going to produce audio which needs to be connected to something else so that you can hear it. You'll also see that both of these have got other icons with green on them, but these are on the right. These are also outputs, and they are really to do with internal connections that you might have to other pieces of equipment in more complex setup, but you don't really need to worry about those to start with. Also, down the bottom, I've got some ones with a sort of greeny blue icon on them, which are also producing something. They're actually not something you need to worry about at all with this installation. Just ignore them. And the remaining icons, some of which are purple in color and others of which are red in their inserts, are to do, as you can see on the name here, MIDI bridge, MIDI through, RT MIDI output client, and so on. They're to do with routing MIDI signals, and we won't talk about those in this video. We might come back to that later. It can get quite complex with SonicPi because you can get lots of them with wires all over the place, and I don't want to be confusing at the moment. But what you can see is that we do have this S800 icon. That's for the Bluetooth speakers which I've got connected to my Pi, and we've seen has been connected via Bluetooth here. And what we can do is if we start SonicPi playing like this, and then come back to the graph program, if I click on that rectangle, it goes blue to show that it's connected. And if I come up here, there's a button that says disconnect. If I click on it, SonicPi stops playing because we've cut the wires connecting the Super Collider source to the HDMI input in SonicPi, and so you can't hear it in the speakers. But if I was to click on here and select that, and I was to click on Super Collider, oops, I need to shift click to select them both at once, and I was to click on connect, then it connects them like this. And if I turn up the volume on my speaker, and oops, it's not working because we've got to go to here, and you can see that the volume control here is set to nothing. That's why. I turn the volume up, there we are. Turn it down a bit. We've connected to there. Let's switch back again, just to show you that I'll leave the volume up this time. And so I'm going to go to connect to, I'll just click on Super Collider this time, say disconnect it, and then I'm going to click add and do a shift to add that and say connect it. We're back on there. Disconnect, shift click on that. We don't want that one, we want just that one, and click on connect, and there we are, we're back there. Now there's another way you can do these connections, and that is you can simply go and drag a connection wire out from here and plonk it on there like that. That's one channel, just the left one, and here's the right hand channel. That's why there's two inputs for stereo, and there's the other one. You can, if you really want to, connect both of them at the same time. And we've got both going. I can turn down the volume of my speaker on the control which is actually on it and leave the HDMI one going, or I can bring them both up together. Now this one works quite well. I found that if I have a USB, or with the cheap USB adapter I've also got available, it can give some crackling if I connect that with the same time as the Bluetooth one. but that's quite a cool thing to be able to do. Let me disconnect that now. Oops, hang on, it's gone a bit berserk. I've disconnected half of it. Disconnect everything. We'll disconnect everything. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to plug in my Bluetooth adapter into there. And you can see that immediately we bring up three more boxes actually. This one, which is the output, remember it's green and they're on the left, so it's an input. It takes inputs on the left-hand side and produces, it says USB PNP audio device, analog stereo. So that's going to take output to another speaker which is connected to that. And we will just look at the other two. There are two of them. There's that one there, which is another of these monitor outputs for internal connections to other things, a more complex setup. And this one, there's actually a mono input channel on that USB device, which could be fed into an input in Super Collider, though we haven't got one yet, and we'll come back to that. But let's connect up by doing the drawing this time. So I'm going to draw a wire from there to there. And you can see we've got another speaker, and I'll bring it close to the microphone here, so it should be a bit louder there. Take it away again. And if we go here and we right click on the speaker here, we can change the default one as far as the speaker is concerned. It won't affect SonicPi to that one, and now this volume control will control that USB one. But if I leave that turned off, so that volume is at 0, and I was to reconnect this, that's the Bluetooth speaker, and that's independent of this volume control at the moment because this isn't set to control it. If I go back to set that to control that, remember we turned that volume control to 0, it's turned that off. So you can get a bit lost to start with this till you see how it all works together. But hopefully that gives you a good idea. I'll just connect Super Collider and we'll disconnect it for the moment so that you can hear what I'm saying. So we've got 3 possible outputs now to select. Whichever one this is switched to, this volume control will control that. And it will affect what other outputs are connected to. If I had, say, iPlayer playing on the browser, we could I didn't practice this before the video, but if we had that, we could have that going to whichever output this speaker icon selects, and it will switch. When you switch the speaker icon, it will switch other programs to follow that. I think it's quite good that it doesn't switch SonicPi because it means you can actually have independence there. You can actually, let's just do it. Let's just try and see if we can get this going up on something. Except that I'll leave it because let's see. I can't remember whether I've set this up to have logins. Yeah, I probably have. Let's just see whether we can go to bbc.co.uk. Let's see, there's a video here we could use that's got some text on it. Or go to iPlayer. The trouble is I don't think I've put my iPlayer logon into this. Let's go to, say, the news channel. And to watch that. Oh no, I haven't. Let's just see. That's right. Yes. Yes, I have got a TV license. And hopefully.
My first trail race, like my first ultra, and from there it's just grown and grown. And
now that's working,
I
and that is going on at the moment. The
is her ideal distance. Apparently, you can still run quite fast.
the Bluetooth speaker, if I change it to go HDMI, it's now switched to that. I haven't got the volume very high. Let's see whether we can turn it up a bit here. Oops. And let's see if this one is up at the top as well. So there we are. That's running. It shows they both run at the same time. Let's go to SonicPi. That's going out of there. And let's put SonicPi. Well, in fact, no, we can change it with this just to show it works. If we click on this and we say disconnect, we can independently switch this here down to there, I think. And we probably have to allow it to switch here as well, do we? It's not actually going there. I've not tried this particular bit, but let's just see if we say that.
Cricket World Cup for hosts India.
Oh no, sorry, I put it on the wrong one.
In the semi-finals, victory against Sri Lanka would see their qualification secured, and while India set their opponents a huge total of 359 to win.
SonicPi out of there.
With the bat, they've been even better with the ball. Sri Lanka really struggling.
Turn the Bluetooth speaker down. And there you have. You've got them both going out of different outputs at the same time. At any rate, enough of such frivolity. I think that makes the point that this is a very versatile situation for how you can actually connect things. Now, there's one other thing I could show you about the configuration, or two other things about the configuration of SonicPi. The first is that if we do want to use inputs to SonicPi, then we need to enable audio inputs. And that we can do by clicking on Enable Audio Inputs and then going to Restart like that. Now, if you watch the Super Collider icon, it goes away, but SonicPi is restarting. And in a moment, it will come back, and you'll see that by default, there are two inputs complementing the two outputs. And notice that's automatically reconnected to the HDMI output. And once SonicPi is fully started, we can start it playing again, and it's still coming out there. But the one other thing we can do is that if we go to back to here, and I'm going to switch to the Pi folder, and let's just look at it in icon format. Now, if you make it view hidden icons, which I've done already, if I turn them off, you could see there's fewer folders there. If I turn on view hidden icons, then here is the .sonicpi folder, and this is where you see such things as the log files for SonicPi, which you only really need to look at if things go drastically wrong. There's a folder called History, and this contains some of the pre-runs of SonicPi in there, and also there is a folder called Store, and this actually contains all the stored programs in SonicPi. This is how it remembers previous programs which were there before. You don't want to fiddle with that unless you know what you're doing, otherwise you might lose some work which you didn't want to. But there is also a config folder, and in that there is a file which is called audio settings.toml, that one there. And I'm going to open that in the Genie editor program. Here it is, and I'm going to make the text size larger so that you can see it. And this has various configuration settings for SonicPi. all of which have got default values, but if you want to or you need to, you can override them. Now, you probably don't want to do that unless you know what you're doing, though don't worry, if you do make a mistake, you can just delete the file and reboot SonicPi, and it will recreate a fresh copy and go back to the default values. Now, one thing we might want to alter is the number of input and output channels that we've got. Remember, at the moment we've got 2 each, as we can see here, 2 input and 2 output. I tend to use slightly more complex setups for SonicPi with the work that I do, and therefore I want to change these, and I usually run with slightly, that's the downloads when we want, where is it, Genie, that's what I want. I usually change this. Now, one of the gotchas is that you've got to remember to remove that if you want it to be active. The hash signs at the beginning, they're like comments, and I don't want as many as 16. In fact, the more you use, potentially the more you're spreading resources in a super collider, so don't go overboard if you don't need to. I use 4 inputs. It sounds a lot, but remember that's only really 2 lots of stereo inputs, because you take 2 channels for a stereo input or for a stereo output. And I like to have 3 outputs available. 6 outputs available, which is 3 stereo outputs, although maybe 4 is good. It gives you 1 spare one and the main one. These you can use with some of the commands within SonicPi to control where sound is coming from and going to in more advanced setups. That's the first change you can make. And the second one, which is further down, is for the new PipeWire settings which are available. By default, PipeWire will connect a new device, including SonicPi, with a buffer size of 124 samples and a sample rate, the rate at which the sound, audio sound is effectively chopped up, of 48,000 samples per second. Now, you can play around with both of these, but I'd suggest that at the moment you leave the 48,000 alone, but on a Pi4 or Pi400, I find I've been getting quite good response with this set to 512. Basically, the lower you can get the buffer size and it works nicely, then the lower latency you're liable to have. And similarly, if you increase the sample rate, this can affect the latency as well. It's slightly more complex as far as the whole PipeWire system is concerned, but certainly this one can make a difference. And I'm hoping maybe on the Pi5 we can set that maybe down to 256, but I'm still waiting for mine to arrive, hopefully within the next fortnight. So remember the gotcha, you've got to remove these, and you could of course leave the defaults there if you can't remember what they were, or maybe just add them with another, let's see, like this. If we put another hash in here, where are we? There. And we just put in 1024 to remind us what the default value was if we want to go back again. Otherwise, we'd have to delete the file and recreate it to bring it back. That one we've not changed, but we'll just say what it is. So we've got those set up now. We save that file, and we can close that down. And now if we go back to SonicPi, which is over here, and we quit it, okay, it's always a good idea to give it a second or two to shut down, because it has to shut down gracefully. It's actually running several programs, SonicPi, and you've got to make sure that all of them are shut down for it to come out gracefully. This was one of the problems with the early versions of SonicPi before we defined the software, in that it could leave some things hanging around, which made it hard to start again. So now if we go back to, I'm going to bring this up to the front so you can see the changes. See, SonicPi is gone. We've still got, well, in fact, it will have stopped. No, why is that actually stopped? I've got the volume turned down. Yeah, we've still got iPlayer running in the background there. But if I now start SonicPi, first of all, you'll see Super Collider come up, and you'll see we've now got 4 inputs and 6 outputs, and the first 2 of them, the SonicPi automatically looks for and connects to the HDMI output. And if we go back to SonicPi and run this, it's still working like that. If we go to the preference menu, you can see that the sample rate is now 48,000 and the block size is 512, which is what we set it to. And so there we have it. That's the whole thing running and set up. And in fact, yes, this has moved down slightly. Let's just move that up very slightly so you can see that SonicPi is actually running on a Pi4 with 4 gigabytes of memory and the 64-bit OS and version 4.5. So we stop that, then I think that's probably enough for this video. It's gone on for some time, but I hope that gets you going with SonicPi 4.5 on your Raspberry Pi. I've had it running on a Pi4, Pi400 and a Pi3, although it's pretty sluggish on a Pi3, but it's still usable. So lots of fun. I hope you enjoy it, and thank you for watching the video.